I wanted to ask you about, Biden has directed HHS, and again, the sort of series of executive actions that really felt more like suggestions, but directed HHS to basically ensure that under HIPAA, under patient confidentiality agreements, no doctor has to report what you're saying, the, suspicion of a self-managed abortion or an abortion or whatever it is. Is that reaching people? Like, is that reaching doctors? Is it enough to say I want to direct HHS and I'll put it on my website, reproductiverights.gov, yeah, I guess I just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
I mean, well, one, clearly doctors need the guidance. So yes, absolutely useful. Helpful to have them be told, don't go around reporting your patients, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully if the president says it means something. I mean, like, that's the extent to which I think it's useful, right? And of course, like, people in this landscape who've been doing this work have been wanting this to be made explicit. And so for them, super glad. As far as the Biden administration's response to this generally, I mean, the Democrats have just been embarrassing. And we're not like kind of behind. I mean, if I can work with my colleagues to set up an RLDF a year before we know the Dobbs decision is coming out, I think obviously one expects more of the federal government, right? But instead we have the Biden administration not being able to say abortion. We have Kamala Harris doing her Kamala Harris thing where it's like really hard to tell what the fuck she just said. And and she's like, we thought that this was going to be okay. I forget that clip, right? It's like, we thought it was going to be okay. So we were just sitting, like, what are you talking about? You're the federal government. And so on that front, I think what I can just say is that, like, I mean, like, seriously, fuck the Democratic failings, right? For years and years and years at this point, because this is not the short game. This has been the long game for so long. And like, I'm out here always telling people, along with many of my colleagues, that like all these things are connected and blah, 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 right? Like, why am I convincing the left that all these things are connected when the right and the fascists have known it's connected, which is why they're all white supremacists, like, and anti-abortion and hate trans people. Like, the reason that they know those things are connected, but we're out here being like, trans women aren't women and trans people don't experience like pregnancy discrimination. Like, fuck you, trans people support abortion and reproductive health care. Like, I'm guessing more than most communities. And so it's just, I think that there's like a general failing, which is really, really hard. And it's hard to not know. It's hard to know when you don't have tangibles. Like, you're going to do X, Y, and Z. First of all, why wasn't this infrastructure in place already? Like, why weren't you out here assuring us ages ago that you had it down? Instead, you're like, oh, the Dobbs decision is about to come. What do you think we should do? We're listening. Our ears are open. Like, it's too late to listen.
Why didn't the Obama administration codify it like they said they would?
Yeah, and like, also, like, you know, I don't like speaking ill of the dead, and I love a lot of RBG decisions, but like, why did she stay on the Supreme Court? Like, there's so many institutional failings, you know?
Huge. Yeah, I mean, maybe I've said this before on the show, but I hired a mariachi band to play the night that Hillary Clinton was supposed to win in order to like stick it to Donald Trump. And so, and look, am I embarrassed about that decision? Of course I am. That was so stupid. I was cavalier. I was like, oh, he's totally going to lose. And then a mariachi band will play and it'll be amazing. And this was all live on AJ Plus. At the end of the night, the mariachi band they were consoling me. They were like, ay, lo siento. And it was very funny.
I mean, Hillary Clinton had a whole glass ceiling she didn't get to crack. So I feel like you don't get to be embarrassed. And at least you got a fucking concert.
One, there was a literal glass ceiling she didn't get to crack. And two, RBG banking on Clinton winning and then being like, fuck me, fuck.
This is why I don't gamble.
Well, yeah. I think also it really sort of betrays how little we understand the makeup of our communities, right? And I think that if you have all these political demagogues just being like, I never saw this coming, that just doesn't tell you where we are in culture. And like, our culture is actually pretty perverse and terrifying when it comes to pregnant people, at least. We really fucking hate them. We don't want them to live. I mean, it's pretty clear.
Which communities are you the most concerned about? And they're the ones that you've worked with? But for example, another thing in the executive directives that I thought was good was like, you know, maintaining reproductive acts or abortion rights and abortion access for people, and this is depressing, but who are detained in federal detention facilities for undocumented migrants. And you're like, that is the most depressing thing you'd have to say. And yet I'm glad you said it. And I'm glad that the Trump guy who was part of fucking ICE, who was like logging migrants' periods. Do you remember that whole story?
I mean,
on
just
the
like
border?
every abuser out here with their reproductive control, the state is just like prime abuser. Let's tell you how to do it. Sorry, Anna, you were saying.
And no, and
No,
actually to that point was the Missouri, sorry, but the law in Missouri where apparently you can't get an actual divorce in Missouri if you are pregnant. Obviously, if you can get a legal abortion, you don't have to be pregnant anymore and you can leave your abuser. But again, this is the anthrax of legal world. And so all the permafrost is melting and now we're stuck with these shitty old laws that are in place. So yes. So anywho, there was a question in there somewhere, Rafa, buried.
Like, what do I feel about this fucked up law about divorce? I mean, what I feel is that it's both shocking, right? It's like shocking, deeply shocking. You should be shocked you cannot get an abortion when you're pregnant. And at the same time, it's not deeply shocking because it is totally within the logic of the state in terms of control of bodies, control of particular bodies, of misogyny and patriarchy. So yes, these are old laws, but these are existing ways of being in the world. Like when you use laws like that, you perpetuate a culture where it's okay to basically say, like, you own the body of the person that you are married to. It's no different from that, right? And then also, like, the state doesn't care about survivors. They're out here both punishing survivors in family court all the time for quote unquote not leaving their abusers, separating them from their children for doing so. When they do so, then punishing them by again separating their children. I mean, it's all counter. It's all the logic is not consistent with each other, but it is all consistent with the logic of reproductive oppression, control, white supremacy, patriarchy. So it's, yeah, I mean, New Hampshire had this law they were trying to propose, which was like, the person that got you pregnant could sue you, and then the family court should be able to monitor you and assess whether you're adequately obtaining prenatal care. And like, you think your abuser is out here wanting you to, like, I don't know, like, this idea that this abusive partner can be ceded so much control is just about patriarchy.
What's going on, Frantifa? If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that button. And also, you can become a patron and support the show every single week. Get access to bonus episodes and exclusive merchandise. Patreon.com/bitchuation room. Do